The U.S. military prison at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, was a key part of the Bush administration's response to the September 11th attacks. Salim Hamdan, Osama bin Laden's former driver, was the first inmate to be tried there by a military tribunal. But the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that the proceeding had been illegal. In the end, he was retried and sentenced to 5 months in addition to the time he'd been detained awaiting trial. Zacarias Moussaoui was tried by a federal court in Virginia for his role in the September 11th attacks. He got life in prison. Ginny Sloan is president of the Constitution Project, a legal think tank. She says hundreds of terrorism suspects have been convicted in civilian federal courts since 2001, compared to just a few convictions in military courts.
There's just no question but that not only are federal courts more effective at rendering justice, but they are also much more effective in protecting constitutional rights and making sure that the trials are done right and we don't have challenges to them in the courts or in Congress.
President Obama's pledge to close Guantanamo prison envisaged civilian trials for its inmates, and the Ghailani trial in a Manhattan court will be a milestone in that effort. But the plan to try confessed September 11th mastermind Khalid Sheikh Mohammed in New York City was met with fierce criticism. Law professor David Cole chaired a recent discussion of terrorism trials at Georgetown University.
I think we're still, 9 years later, struggling to find what's the right venue for holding people accountable for committing atrocious crimes.
Experts say one of the problems is that much of the evidence has been tainted by allegations that some of it was obtained through torture. Denny LeBoeuf is an attorney with the American Civil Liberties Union.
That's not justice to say, yes, we tortured people, gee, it's really a shame we're not doing that anymore, but now we have these people who were tortured, but they're really bad people. So we have to figure out a way to lock them up. So let's have a second, lesser, justice-light system that will, somehow redress this great harm, and it can't.
But conservatives say terrorism is an exceptional kind of crime. Jim Gilmore was Virginia's governor when the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia, was attacked on September 11, 2001.
We have to remember people who were murdered, people who were vaporized, people who had to throw themselves off buildings that were on fire. Civilized societies have the right to set up systems of justice to defend themselves, whether it's militarily in a case of war or whether it's in a criminal justice system. We have the right to do that.
The Obama administration wants Guantanamo inmates tried in a way that's seen as legitimate in the eyes of the world. But as in many other countries that are faced with terrorism, there's a great deal of pressure to make exceptions to America's robust constitutional protections. Jerome Sokolovsky, VOA News, Washington.